Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Basel Pod. I'm Sam Basel, joined alongside a full crew today of Jordan Laube, Clubfoot Jim, and Owen Brown. And this is episode 9 of our 2025 NFL breakdowns. Over the past 3 weeks, we've gone over every single division in the NFL, all 32 teams, which you can find on houseenterprise.com and wherever you get your podcasts. But since we started this 3 weeks ago, our first episode being the NFC East, we kind of figured we'd want to do a little bit of a catch-up show, talk about any major transactions, any major moves, any breaking news that has happened since those first couple episodes all the way up to now. And obviously, if you're listening to this pod, it's about 2 days before the 2025 NFL season starts, and you already know that there are some significant moves that happened in the past 3 weeks, and we're going to break down all of them, plus a couple viewer responses that we've gotten, some questions that people might have had, some things they pointed out to us that we kind of want to talk about. But first off, I wanted to introduce the crew. Guys, how's everyone doing? Jordan, I know me and you have been working on this for a couple weeks, so 3 days out from the season, how are you feeling?
Of course, I'm muted, and naturally, that's a great start to the Addendum episode. Things have been going good. I'm really excited that we were able to just gauntlet our way through the divisional recaps and divisional overviews, and now we're here. Obviously, as we're recording 3 days away from the season, when this drops, probably 2 days or 1 day out from the season. But obviously, we just had some major breaking news since then. We may even get something tonight. We'll see. I have a couple of sources who are saying another big thing might happen, but we'll see. I doubt it. Obviously, the biggest thing that could happen has happened. But yeah, that's it for me. I'm just really excited to get through this episode and get into our predictions tomorrow when we record. Or not tomorrow, but maybe another day this week.
And James, this is the first time we've talked on a podcast probably since the draft show. So, I mean, how's your summer been and how you feeling? We'll probably get into it a little bit, but how you feeling about the Jets this year?
Yeah, I'm excited to run the damn ball because I'm not sure if we'll be able to throw. There's been some positives, mostly negatives. I'm hearing at Jets camp. My sources are Connor Hughes and Zach Rosenblatt, so take that as your as you will with their positivity and negativity they usually got going on. I'm excited. I know everybody's begging for us to talk about the Deron Bland extension that the Cowboys did. So,
obviously you've been cranking away at several preseason coverage, both on the NFL side and on the college football side. Could you talk about, just stuff that you've been working on these past couple weeks and how you're feeling about the start of the season?
Yeah, so like you said, I've been cranking out a lot of conference previews for all the Power Four conferences in college football, as well as a full playoff predictions like I did last year. Then on the NFL side, I'm excited to get back to covering the Titans, who they may not be good, but there's definitely some excitement in Nashville with Cam Ward, and just seeing him as a leader so far throughout camp has been really cool. And, all of his teammates are in support of him, and I'm just excited. There's buzz around the Titans for the first time in a while, and that's an exciting thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And, kind of what you alluded to, I wanted to show everybody, the great things that House Enterprise is offering, as we prepare for football season. Week 1 of college football is wrapping up right now as TCU takes on North Carolina. But on the NFL side, as you can see, we've got a full playlist of all 32 teams available on the House Enterprise YouTube channel. We've also got, if you want to listen to the full divisional podcast, we've got those also in their own specific playlist on the House Enterprise YouTube channel. And then, obviously, after this Google shopping ad goes away, we've got our full college football season kickoff. A lot of this might be a little bit outdated because it covers a lot of our picks from the Football House for week 1. But if you keep scrolling down, you can find full coverage for all of Owen Brown's 2025 conference previews. And then also, if you go on House Enterprise, you can find the home base for all of our team and divisional previews in the NFL that Jordan and I have worked on in the past couple weeks. And then this podcast is obviously going to go towards the top once it's available, so that anybody can see all the big changes that we've had going on this season. But getting back to, the podcast, let's just rip the Band-Aid off and let's talk about the Micah Parsons trade. Obviously, he's going to the Cowboys unloading probably one of their best players that we've seen in the past decade, maybe 15 years or more, to Green Bay. Jordan, wanted to get your thoughts first. Is what the Cowboys got out of this trade enough for, this fan base to kind of still believe in Jerry Jones and company?
No, plain and simple. If the Packers were a struggling team and they were a team that was kind of, rebuilding behind Jordan Love and they didn't already have a good roster and the Cowboys acquired 2 first-round picks for them, yeah, sure. It would be a good trade. But the reality is that the Packers are one of the best up-and-coming teams. And now they've added a firecracker off the edge of Micah Parsons, who is obviously one of the best pass rushers in the league since he started playing edge full-time. And he's a really stout run defender, too, and he doesn't get enough credit for that. In return, they obviously get the 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark is coming off, his worst season yet, but it was still an okay season. Granted, he had some injury bugs going on with that, and I think he needed to change the scenery. And the Cowboys needed they needed help on the inside because Osa is a good pass rusher. He's a horrible run defender. So taking some pressure off him and letting Kenny work more as that nose, 2-eye kind of D tackle, I think is going to really help him better as a run defender and just help this defense be better against the run. But unless Jerry flips those 2 first-round picks he acquired into another player, or he uses his first-round pick and the one from the Packers to trade up for a higher value first-round pick, and he does it 2 drafts in a row, then I think it might pay off because you could get someone, they need a running back, right? Let's say they don't pick up a free agent and none of the running backs they have right now pan out. They could trade up and get Jeremiah from Notre Dame, and then the following year trade up again for, let's say they want to get another receiver, or there's a really good tight end in that class, right? The 2027 class is going to be ridiculously loaded, right? So they can supplement what they lost in Micah on the offensive side, but the defense is where help is needed. And I don't think in the next couple of drafts, outside of a couple of players, they'll be able to trade up for a defensive player that will have the same impact as Micah has had. Because you don't just stumble upon a generational all-pro talent from the moment he steps on the field ever in the draft, really. And Micah played mainly off-ball in college. First year splits time at off-ball, slot, and edge, and then became a full-time edge. You don't see that happen, and he's been one of the best defensive edge rushers. I don't know if the ends justify the means of getting rid of Micah because you can't swallow your ego and have an actual contract negotiation and dispute in today's NFL with an agent present. It's not the 80s anymore, which we talked about in the NFC East episode. It's 2025. There's rules of engagement for this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I kind of wanted to ask you, obviously Jordan alluded to the fact that, while Kenny Clark does provide some inside help defensively for Dallas, obviously what they're losing on the outside is really a little bit too much for this deal to seem fair. For you, is there anybody in this defensive, and this can go for anybody can answer this too, but for you, is there anybody, maybe deeper in the Cowboys depth chart that you feel like could help fill this role? Maybe 1 or 2 guys, maybe they can run kind of a bit of a platoon at his position. Where do you feel like they can fill that hole, at least temporarily?
Yeah, they're not going to replace him. That's the bottom line. It's like what the Titans did with AJ Brown. In theory, I guess it makes sense, but it's just not going to happen. They do have Donovan Ezeraku, I believe, a rookie from Boston College, but 2nd-round pick. He's not anything close to what Micah was coming out of Penn State. It's hard to have young guys, especially later into the off season. This isn't April. This is a couple weeks away from week 1. They have to now be thrust into this almost impossible position where like, oh, you're the guy who has to replace Micah Parsons. Like, it's just, in my opinion, I think it's just asking way too much of younger players who, they need to grow. They can't just be put into a situation like this right away.
Yeah. And not only you being thrust into this position, to replace a guy like Micah Parsons, but you're also losing the mentorship of Micah Parsons.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So you don't even have anybody really that has your back at that position to try and figure out how you can help fill it. James, I mean, is there any trade that we can kind of compare this to over the last couple of years that you've seen? I mean, I know people, just because it's Dallas, I mean, this is outside of football, but people like to, I'm seeing comparisons of the Luka trade, obviously, when he got sent to the Lakers. But, I mean, is there more of a football trade that you feel like you can compare this to that maybe even worked out, or maybe one that notably did not?
Yeah, I love that you asked me this question, because as Jets fans, we can kind of look back to that Jamal Adams trade. And very similar trade in terms of return. 2 first-round picks, which I think honestly says a lot about the lack of quality I think that Dallas got in return for Micah Parsons. 2 first-round picks for a safety was, Joe Douglas fleece, incredible. 2 first-round picks for a guy at premier position like edge, and a guy at the talent level that Micah Parsons is not nowhere near the return that I think they should have got. I am happy that someone kind of finally stuck up to Jerry Jones. He likes these strong arm tactics and these contract negotiations a lot. You saw it with CD, you saw it with Dak. I like that Micah Parsons kind of actually finally stuck up and didn't let him sort of walk all over him. And that probably took a huge hit to Jerry's ego. Yeah, but the return not ideal. You look back for 2 first-round picks for safety, beautiful, brilliant. 2 first-round picks for the best, if not one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. Not what you want.
Yeah. And Jordan, I mean, we talked about in our NFC North preview, I mean, this was going to be a very competitive NFC North this year. Now we talked about the Packers not necessarily being front runners. It kind of felt like it was going to be between Minnesota and Detroit, with the Packers probably getting a wild card spot. But how much closer does this trade, move the Packers towards the other 2 top contenders?
It defensively puts them up there, right? Because, I liked Lucas Van Ness coming out of college, but based on what he's put up on tape and how he's played this preseason, he hasn't taken that next step, and he might have regressed based on his play when he was at Iowa. So obviously Rashawn Gary, who, has the injury stuff, hasn't been able to be fully healthy, but when he's fully healthy is a very, very good pass rusher, right? So now you add Micah Parsons to the opposite side of him. So if Rashawn Gary's healthy, that's one of the best edge rushing tandems in the entire NFL. That's just stupid good. But now you lose out on Kenny Clark on the interior. So now you have to use Devontae Wyatt, who's a good pass rusher, but has shown he's not doing what he needs to do in the run game. Carl Brooks, who, he's a 6th-round draft pick from 2023. He's okay, but he's not going to replace what Kenny Clark did. And then you have Nazir Stackhouse, who's an undrafted free agent this year out of Georgia and was very underwhelming for the type of hype he had coming off his 2nd year of college. So it's I don't know how you interior defensive rush wise or interior run defense wise, how you replace Kenny Clark, but what you get in Micah Parsons off the edge is going to help offset that to a great amount. Now you just got to hope Jared Cooper, Quay Walker, Isaiah McDuffie are able to come together as that interior or the linebackers in the back end. Can they cut the slack and make up for the slack that's going to be in that D tackle room now and be able to fly downhill, which Jared Cooper was very good at. Quay Walker has gotten better every season. He hasn't lived up to that 1st-round pedigree at all, but he has gotten better in every season. So hopefully he takes that next step in the run game, and it's kind of a wash from linebacker to D tackle help, and now you add Micah, who is going to elevate this rush defense. So I think defensively, they're going to be a top 5 unit in the league now by adding Micah. In the run and against the pass, they were already a top 10 unit last year. And then offensively, Jordan Love just has to utilize his weapons as best as he can. Like, obviously, Matt Golden is going to be a really reliable target for him. I'm super high on Tucker Kraft this year, as we talked about before. The receiver room is loaded outside that. The offensive line, there's some good competitions in that room going on. So it's a good offense, and this defense is going to be top 5. Like, they could easily, not easily, but if, let's say, J.J. McCarthy doesn't pan out the way we do, and the Lions do indeed take a step back from losing Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, the Packers could be a really good, sneaky team to win the NFC North.
Yeah, absolutely. But I wanted to stick actually in the NFC North with another acquisition. Obviously, recently had Thielen to Minnesota. He was traded from the Carolina Panthers with a conditional 2026 7th-round pick, a 2027 5th-round pick to the Vikings, and the Panthers got in exchange a 2026 5th-round pick and a 2027 4th-round pick. First, I want to talk about, any strong thoughts on this trade? Obviously, Thielen back in Minnesota, but any clear winner in trade, in your guys' opinion? Obviously, Thielen is the known talent right now, but with those picks, do you feel like the Panthers? What was kind of their mindset going into it? Were they just kind of probably trying to unload his contract, or what do you think?
I think he was probably one of those clear-cut guys. You see these at the end of training camp. Guys want to get some value for who, they know who they're going to cut. I think it was just more of a dump in that sort of sense. The Vikings did a lot of that too. They acquired a lot of picks during this preseason. So I was wondering what they were going to do with all these picks that they were just, hoarding for some reason. And I kind of see what they were doing with that now. I think it's a good replacement for Jordan Addison while he's out for a little bit. I'm not sure how much Adam Thielen honestly has left in the tank, but I know he was magical, honestly, for those years in Minnesota. So maybe he can, get back to that.
Yeah, kind of bringing up mentors again. What could a guy like Justin Jefferson, possibly learn from Adam Thielen? Obviously, not necessarily that their games are super similar, but just a guy who's been on that specific team, been around the league for a while. Where do you feel like we talked about where Justin Jefferson could develop in our NFC North preview, but anything specifically that he can get from Thielen?
I think it's just a good way to rekindle that connection that they had. Like, Thielen was the veteran in the room when Jettas was a rookie, and he took off, right? And yes, like you said, they're completely different styles, but it's still learning how to be in a locker room, learning how to be a good teammate, learning how to flow in the offense and make yourself a usable target for the quarterback, right? And so with Thielen coming back and getting more of those veteran years under him, and now Jettas is the top receiver in the NFL. Some people argue Jamar Chase. I still think Jettas is the best, but whatever. People can argue that till they're blue in the face. But bringing Thielen back and seeing how Jettas has grown, I don't think it's so much more of a mentoring thing. Now I think it's a chemistry thing. Obviously Thielen's not throwing to Jettas, but if their routes are in the same spacing area, or they're running similar concepts, or they're being subbed out in formations with each other, they can feed off each other, and they can say, hey, this DB is doing this, or hey, when we run a post and it's 2 high safeties, the free is squeezing or the backside safety squeezing, so either skinning it or flatten it. Just doing small things like that is going to really take this tandem to the next level. And when Jordan Addison comes back, I don't know how much Thielen's going to play when Addison comes back. He might be their primary slot receiver after that, but with those 3 all together, because Thielen was gone, which is the reason why they brought in Addison, right? So, now that they're going to have those 3 together, I'm excited to see what this offense is going to be able to do. And it's just another weapon for J.J. McCarthy to get comfortable with.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other big trade that I wanted to talk about, obviously the Brian Robinson trade. In our NFC West preview, we talked about it. We actually were recording the moment it broke. And we obviously talked about it from a 49ers perspective and what Brian Robinson can do to kind of beef up that backfield. But now I wanted to get into it from a Commanders perspective, talking about maybe what they've lost and then how they can kind of fill that gap with what they've currently got. So, I want to get your thoughts on the Brian Robinson trade. Obviously, there was some talks about him getting moved before the season started. Was San Francisco a surprising destination for you?
I mean, sort of, but also not really. They sent off their backup running back to Minnesota, Jordan Mason, and given Christian McCaffrey's injury history, it's always a good idea to have a good backup running back. And Brian Robinson is a pretty good, I'd say he's an average starter, and to have that as a backup is a really good thing to have for an offense that relies on the run game. And we saw how CMC looked last year when he did come back from injury. It wasn't good. And if McCaffrey can come back to some of the level that he was at a couple of years ago, they can still give Brian Robinson the ball to spell him a little bit, keep him fresh, keep him healthy, which, Christian McCaffrey's, I would say, is their best offensive player. And, if he can stay on the field, they'll be a better team than they were last year. And Robinson will help Kyle Shanahan do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, any thoughts on Brian Robinson and where the Commanders kind of fill that gap a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, they love the Commanders love this rookie that they have, Bill JMC. I'm seeing he's all over my TikTok. I'm seeing people in fantasy leagues taking him number 1 overall. I think it's got to just be a meme, honestly, to an extent.
I mean, we talked about it on our pod too.
Yeah, I mean he's taken over the Commanders fandom. So we'll see what they have with him. I mean, Austin Eckler's not getting any younger. We'll see what kind of role he steps into. I hope it pans out, because I love when these sort of just like legends are born in the preseason, and they then transcend into the regular season. So I think they love what they have with this guy. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and
love getting an early guy to root for.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Ben. But piggybacking off that, it's like JCM was my dark horse even before the Brian Robinson trade. Like, Bill is, I love what we saw from in New Mexico. Obviously, the big ordeal with the jersey numbers and everything, which we talked about on the podcast for that, but was the reason why he lost his senior year. If he got that senior year, we're looking at someone who's probably going to be an end of day 2, maybe start of day 3 pick rather than round 7. I think he was taking it. He might have been round 6, but I think he was round 7. But like, just the explosiveness, the wiggle between the tackles, his vision is unreal. And you saw that in not the final preseason game, but the second to last one when he was playing with the starters. The only competition you might have is Chris Rodriguez. He very efficient runner, is probably going to be the goal line back, so he'll lose some carries there. And I think early on, people are going to freak out. Like, the first 4 weeks, Chris Rodriguez is going to out-carry Bill, I think. But he's the veteran in the room. They want to use the rookie as a spell back and a change of pace back. And then once he breaks out some big runs, like we saw with Bucky Irving last year, Bill's going to take over the starting reps, get the bulk of them, and that's where we're going to see him shine. So if you're a fantasy owner and it's 4 weeks in and JCM only has, 30 carries in 4 games, do not panic. Hold your shares. Hold on to him. He's going to be a good player. And if it's any indication, he did not play any snaps in that final game of the preseason. So, and that's rare for a rookie to be in that situation, especially one who is as late of a draft pick as he was.
And so, Jordan, the last transaction that I wanted to talk about is not as much of a transaction, but more of a play. That's Rashee Rice. A traffic violation in the beginning of 2024. Obviously, he was speeding at pretty dangerous speed from what I remember on the report. The NFL wanted an 8-game suspension. The Players Association and the Chiefs were obviously trying to argue that down a little bit, and it seems like they've settled on a 6-game suspension. Obviously, not really a place where you want to be with a player. You never want anybody suspended. But given the first 6 weeks of the Chiefs season and the fact that they were able to get it down from 8, I mean, where do you feel like the Chiefs fans and then, just the Chiefs program can kind of take some comfort in knowing that it wasn't as bad of a suspension as people thought it was going to be?
I mean, there's comfort that he's going to be back at some point this year. It's not a full season suspension. You didn't lose him to injury. Like, he's going to come back. And when he comes back, he's going to be fresh. And they're going to need him fresh because this early run in the Chiefs' schedule is brutal. They start in Brazil against the Chargers. Chargers got reloaded on defense and look poised to make a run at the AFC West title this year. Then they have a Super Bowl rematch with the Eagles. And, they lost some defenders, but it's still a Vic Fangio defense with some really nasty players in that system. Then they play the Giants, who defensively no one should be sleeping on. We'll see if Russ and this offensive line can hold up on the other side of the ball. But this defense is going to be fun and nasty with Abdul Carter really being the wild card on that defense and lining up. They're going to line him up wherever they want, and they're going to say, hey, let's get him a one-on-one against someone he's more athletic than and have him go win. Then you play the Ravens, who were one of the best defenses in the NFL in the back half of last season. Then you get kind of a break against the Jaguars. I say kind of because we'll see how the offense does because if the Chiefs' defense can't stifle this offense, we're going to be in a shootout. And then the last game, that Week 6 game, you play the Lions, who are going to be reloaded on defense, ready to come full tilt and show that they're still the top dog in the NFC. Like 5 of those 6 games, you're going to have a nasty defense to go against. And I just don't know, they're going to be targeting or they're going to be shadowing Xavier Worthy now that Rashee Rice isn't in there. That first game, Jalen Royals looks like he's going to miss, and he might miss Week 2. So that kind of pseudo Rashee Rice player isn't going to be there. So now you have to insert Hollywood Brown or Tyquan Thornton into that role, or Juju Smith, and none of them can really play that Rashee Rice role, or at least the level Rashee can. And that is only if Travis Kelce is not the Travis Kelce we had last year. If Travis Kelce is what he was 2 or 3 years ago, then I don't think it's going to be an issue because he'll kind of, even though he's a different player, he'll still be able to be used on kind of those Rashee Rice shallow yak plays that Travis Kelce is so good at, right? And it helps having 2 guys of a similar skill set, just different body types in those roles. But I don't know. We really might see a Chiefs team be 2-4 and 3-3 at the end of the 6-week run without Rashee Rice. But here's the good part is after that, you're playing some defenses you might be able to take advantage of throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into some responses to some questions from the viewers that we got over our first 8 episodes, I mean, were there any other major moves you guys, Big Home and James, obviously you weren't on for these first 8 pods, but were there any big moves that you guys liked that maybe we didn't get a chance to highlight?
I mean, I don't necessarily like it, but the Patriots did cut Jabril Peppers, which I thought was kind of an odd move. The Patriots, they hired former Titans coach Mike Vrabel, who loves versatile players, and that's what Peppers is on defense. And, the Patriots they're going to be better than they were last year, I think, because they have a competent coaching staff, but they're going into this next season pretty thin in the secondary. Christian Gonzalez has been out for the past 5 weeks with a hamstring injury. And Carlton Davis, who they signed from the Lions, another cornerback, is been in and out of practice all training camp and preseason. And for a Mike Vrabel team that's not very deep in the secondary, that's not a good sign, especially considering that the offense is going to be relying on a lot of young guys. And the offensive line isn't that great, so it's just going to be putting a lot on Drake May's plate in a new scheme as well offensively. So I just think that the Patriots may regret that down the line, especially if they get another injury in the defensive backs room.
Yeah, absolutely. And now I wanted to get into some thoughts on, from our viewers about some of the things that we talked about. First, I wanted to talk about the Detroit Lions and their offensive scheme. Obviously, we talked about, Ben Johnson and him moving from the Lions to the Bears and where that could affect, Detroit's offensive game plan. But a comment from Daniel Van Dusen on our Lions preview kind of maybe outlined some thoughts on maybe where the Lions actually find some hope in their offense and not assume that it's going to take as much of a step as we thought during our NFC North pod. And he kind of basically alludes to the fact that, this Lions offense under the Dan Campbell era was largely, drawn up and schemed by John Morton rather than Ben Johnson. And obviously now, so John Morton came in to the Lions in 2022. He was a senior offensive assistant. Then from 2023 to 2024, he was a pass game coordinator for the Denver Broncos. And then starting this year, he is now the Lions offensive coordinator. So, Jordan, just curious, maybe were we just a little bit, not recognizing John Morton? And then maybe where do you feel like, he could provide some continuity specifically in their style of play on offense with him kind of now fully leading the offense?
Yeah, short answer, I think that was an oversight on my part. John Morton obviously was the senior offensive assistant in the Lions that first year Dan Campbell was in the building, and helped design this offense. And sometimes the senior offensive assistant title goes to someone who has been a coordinator, been a head coach, and kind of helps in and kind of helps a new regime figure things out, but isn't the main catalyst in designing an offense, where in this instance, he helped Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson design this offense from the ground up, and now he's coming in kind of at, we've seen the peak of, what Ben Johnson's been able to do. Now he's going to come in with a different set of eyes with what he's been doing in Denver the past 2 years, learning from Sean Payton and how he designs the pass game, and being able to use that here in Detroit. Because the run game is going to be nasty. Like I say nasty a lot today. I don't know why, but it's going to be a really good run game. It's going to be ground and pound. It's going to be boring. They use motion. Yeah, they'll do some trickery here and there, but it's a really straightforward rushing attack. And using what he's been able to do with Sean Payton the past 2 years with, not a carousel quarterbacks, but obviously Russell Wilson, who is much different than Bo Nix, but Bo Nix is a better fit for this offense. Now kind of working with, similar quarterback in Jared Goff in terms of, weaponizing play action. He's going to be able to use that leverage a lot better now that he's had that time with Sean Payton working in a similar passing attack, essentially. So I think it was a great call out. And I didn't want to make it seem like I was slighting John Morton, but Ben Johnson is obviously one of the sharpest offensive minds in the league, and it's really hard to replace that. Can John Morton do that? I think he can, but in different ways, i.e. the passing attack, where Ben Johnson is good in that area, and in my mind, much stronger with formation tendencies and motion tendencies to get leverage and spacing in the run game. I think Morton can utilize that similarly to open up this pass game even more, and notably Jameson Williams and camp phenom Isaac Tesla, who Dan Campbell, every day it seems like he talks, he has to mention Isaac Tesla and how much they love him. I would expect him to get a good amount of usage in this offense. So you're going to see guys who kind of have been complementary pieces now become focal points of the offense and the main reason why it succeeds.
Yeah, absolutely. And so thank you, Daniel, for bringing that up to him. Dan Campbell's very high on this Isaac Tesla guy. I mean, what have you seen out of him that maybe you might have liked, whether he, just around the league in college? Where do you feel like he could kind of take this offense to the next level here?
I think he wasn't productive at Arkansas, but the athletic traits were obviously there. And this is a guy who was a Lions fan through and through. When he got invited to his pre-draft interview, he wore his own custom Tesla jersey, or Detroit Lions with Tesla on the back of the jersey. I thought that was really cool and just really set the tone. But he's obviously got great athletic tools. He can stretch the field vertically, which was showcased a ton in the preseason. I think he can win in the intermediate area, not as much as he can in the deep game, because some guys just Jalen Hyatt is one of those guys. He's a go ball specialist for the Giants, right? But he doesn't do much else outside of that. I think Isaac is better because he can do well in the deep game, do well in the short game, and can work his way into being a better intermediate receiver, which is where I think he's going to have the biggest growth and how this offense is going to open up the most. So I think he'll be utilized on kind of just short crossing routes or quick pass game, and then the occasional deep shot. As he develops, those dig routes, the deep crossing routes, comebacks on the outside. Like as he works and develops that, he is going to become a better player, obviously, but this offense is going to have a lot more diversity and versatility. So, a lot of people think production is all that matters in college. Like when you look at the tape, you just have to see how they're utilized. I don't think he was utilized as well as he could have been. And I think if anyone can utilize him to his capacity, it's Dan Campbell and John Morton.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wanted to, correct myself again one more time. It was not Daniel that talked about John Morton. That was actually Lee Schwartz. So Lee, thank you for that. But Daniel's comment was actually on our Houston Texans preview, specifically about how Bobby Slowik, his offensive schemes and basically how that might help or hurt the Dolphins. So Jim, I kind of wanted to ask you, obviously they're a Jets opponent in 2025, like they are every single year. But basically what Daniel was explaining was how predictable the Texans offense was under Bobby Slowik. Like it got to a point where, Texans fans such as Daniel were watching this game from home and they were basically correctly calling upcoming plays on their scheme. So for an offense like the Dolphins, which we kind of feel like, we talked about in our AFC East pod, they got a lot to figure out. I mean, how much is predictability to a dangerous degree going to affect them in their 2025 campaign?
Yeah, you and I know this a little too well. I mean, we're doing similar stuff with the Jets this last year, the run, pass, essentially every single drive. I'm sorry, you were a little bit of cutting out there. Is this in reference to the Texans offense this year or for the Dolphins offense this year?
Well, so Bobby Slowik went from the Texans to the Dolphins.
Yes, correct.
And basically what our one viewer was saying is that the Texans offense under Slowik was just way too predictable.
Yes.
So now with the Dolphins, I mean, how much do you feel like that could hurt this offense in their 2025 season?
Yeah. Listen, I think that's just the Dolphins seem like a team destined for just pain and despair this year. It just kind of feels like it's all falling apart at the seams down in Miami. I think it won't be as drastic as we think because he is only in the role of passing game coordinator. So he's not necessarily out there, drawn up calling the plays, but he is very close with Tua. Yeah, I'd be interested to see if he could get back to his coaching style of what it was in 2023 when he was, CJ Stroud had that, arguably one of the better quarterback seasons of a rookie of all time. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the Texans are a team that you've watched a lot. Obviously, they play the Titans twice a year. So for you, I mean, was there anything about this Texans offense that you felt like made it easy for opponents in the AFC South to kind of pick apart?
Yeah, I mean, Titans play them twice a year. They went 1-1 against the Texans, and the one game that the Titans lost, it was Week 18. Will Levis and Mason Rudolph were splitting reps at quarterback, and the one game that they did win was one of the Titans' 3 wins, and I remember that game. CJ Stroud did not do very well. He forced a couple of throws into coverage. He held the ball a little too long, and their offensive line was a mess last year. So it's not all on him, but Stroud did regress, and there were injuries to Steph Diggs and Tank Dell in the wide receiver room, but the play calling was pretty bland as the game went on and just made it really easy for the defense to just sit back and just predict each play. And, especially with the lack of depth they had at receiver last year, it was like more on like CJ Stroud to just, hey buddy, just go throw the ball, make plays the way you did last year. And it really just isn't that simple or that easy. And they did reload in terms of their offensive weapons. So I think it'll be better this year without Slowik, but it was definitely predictable for teams to figure out what the Texans were doing offensively. But the AFC South just sucked last year, so the Texans were able to get away with it for most of the year.
Yeah, and one last question on the AFC South. I mean, what is the identity of this division? I mean, we talked a lot in our AFC South preview just about how many teams, are still trying to get so much figured out. I mean, obviously the Jaguars are trying to really figure out how they move through this Trevor Lawrence era. Where he can be elevated. The Colts starting Daniel Jones, which we talked about. Jordan was very frustrated with on the pod. The Titans obviously got a brand new hopeful franchise quarterback in Cam Ward, but now the Texans, as set as they are roster wise, there's still a lot of questions on their game plan. So I mean, is this kind of a easy route for the Texans to take it, or do the questions around this team level things out a bit?
Yeah, I think it does level it out a little bit, but the Texans will win the division this year.
Yeah.
The Colts, Daniel Jones is probably not going to be their starter for very long, but also Anthony Richardson hasn't really shown that he can lead the Colts to the playoffs. And the Colts, I think, are a team that if they have a top 20 quarterback in the league, they make the playoffs. And they really need either Jones or Richardson to be that guy because they have a really good roster compared to the rest of the division. The Jaguars, on the other hand, I don't really know what they're up to. Trevor Lawrence just signed that huge extension last offseason. He hasn't really lived up to the generational hype that he had coming out of college. Brian Thomas Jr., though, is a really good young receiver for them. They have Travis Hunter. I'm going to be really interested on how they use them interchangeably, the Thomas and Hunter. And if Hunter does play defensively, they have a new coach, Liam Cohen, but there's still a lot of mystery around the Jags. And then, the Titans they're coming off the number 1 overall pick. They're not going to be good, but I think it is an easy division, and the Texans should win it, barring any unfortunate injury to Stroud or to Nico Collins. But they definitely have flaws where if they played in, say, the AFC North or the AFC West, or even the AFC East, that they would definitely not be as good as they are, as they seem.
Yeah, absolutely. And then our last viewer question. This came during our Seattle Seahawks preview. Put it pretty simply, Christian Haynes? Really? How about Gray Zabel? So, Jordan, I mean, any thoughts? Did we kind of overlook Gray Zabel?
No, and I didn't mean to say it as we were ignoring Gray Zabel. Gray Zabel is an awesome zone blocker, and he's shown that throughout the preseason, and he's very worthy of a first-round pick. I mentioned Christian Haynes because he was picked as their premier guard to take over at the right guard spot, but he's better in an outside zone, inside zone system, and they didn't really run that as much as his skill set would require, right? Now under Clint Kubiak, that should be the what's going to happen. Obviously, Christian Haynes is going to start out on IR for the first 4 weeks. He is going to return after that, hopefully, if all things go well. But, the interior offensive line is in a good state. Anthony Bradford has some promise there. He might do well. I want to see Jalen Sundell become the starter at center at one point or another. But if he can't pan out and Oluwatimi can't pan out either, I don't think Gray has played the center position before, but let's say neither of them pan out and Christian Haynes comes back healthy, I'd be interested to see if they move one of those two to center and they just try to work with a really good interior, let Abraham Lucas and Charles Cross develop a little bit more. I don't know if they're going to be the full-time answer at the tackle spots. I believe Abraham's in a contract year as well. And I know health has been a concern in the past for him, but that was not a slight to Gray Zabel at all. He got drafted. We knew he was a day one starter the second he got drafted, and he's awesome. And I know we didn't really talk about many draft picks this year as much as we have in the past, or at least I have in the past. But that was like a slam dunk home run pick. Like when he was on the board at 18, I was like, yeah, Seahawks are pulling trigger, getting Gray Zabel as soon as they can get a call. And I'm pretty sure that pick came in relatively quick. As soon as that pick came up, from what I remember correct. If what I'm remembering is correct. But Gray Zabel is going to be really good. Once Christian Haynes comes back, I think it's going to be really good. And once they figure out that center position, I think this offense is going to start firing on all cylinders. As long as Kenneth Walker III is healthy, because he is damn perfect fit for this Clint Kubiak run system.
And so now that we've covered a lot of the things that we've talked about that needed to be amended in our first 8 episodes, I wanted to kind of get into some fun stuff. Obviously, last week, a big headline that dropped was the NFL rivalries uniforms. Some uniforms that dropped for several of the teams around the league. They look a little similar, and it seems like they're kind of evoking the same thing as a lot of city editions that we've seen in MLB and the NBA, and they're specifically going to be worn during rivalry games. So obviously we're going to see them during pretty much all the AFC East, NFC West games, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Bills, the Cardinals, the Seahawks, the Rams, and the 49ers unveiled theirs. Guys, I want to get your thoughts on some of these uniforms. I know during our draft pod last year, we went into some good detail about some of our favorite uniforms. I was wondering if, maybe James, starting off with you, if any of these uniforms that you've seen kind of might crack into your top rankings here.
So when I first saw these uniforms, the first one I saw was the Jets one. And I loved it. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it kind of fits the style of the Jets, the vibes of the Jets. We've had these sort of dark greens, blackout colors in the past. The unique font is really cool. They said in their post on Instagram, they said something about like Gotham City blackout something or other. It was like cool. It's like super individualized and to like the Jets and their identity. And then I saw the other ones that were coming out, and it felt very. It feels like they just made blackout uniforms for half the teams and whiteout uniforms for half the others. I wish there was a little bit more of individuality in these rivalry uniforms. Like the Miami Dolphins don't need a blackout uniform. I'm sorry, that's just not like they're always those candy colors, like leaning to the candy colors. They're beautiful, they're historic, they're memorable. Why do they need a blackout uniform? It just kind of looks weird, in my opinion. I like the idea. I like the premise. I think that's cool. Having a rivalry setup sort of deal, but I think they could have done a better job with making uniforms sort of speak to the franchises a little bit more.
I like that last point of like speaking to the franchises. Like the way, for example, the Red Sox, their new City Connect jersey this year is all about the Green Monster, and like the way the MLB does it with City Connects and having like people from the city and inspire those jerseys, I think is cool. I just hope it doesn't end up like the NBA City jerseys, where like, okay, the first 3 years of those were cool, and now they're all either like recycling the same thing over and over again, or they're just kind of bland. It definitely is nice seeing a couple new jerseys, and the color schemes are cool, I will say. But yeah, the Dolphins definitely do not need a blackout jersey. That's just so weird to me. But I like it, and I just do wish that it was more like catered towards the team and the city for sure, though.
Yeah, I'll
The
add to
Dolphins.
that.
There you go, Jordan.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'll add to that because I know I'm being biased. I'm a huge fan of the Cardinals ones because they leaned into that like the Desert Storm kind of feel. The color combos are sick, I think, adding an orange tint in there, which isn't normally obviously in Cardinals colors, but I think it works for what it is. I think Dolphins I think they wanted to do like a deep blue, like going to the depths of the sea blue, and it ended up looking black. So I think like that, like they missed the landing there. I think if it was more like a dark aqua color, like you could tell it was blue, I think it would have been a little better, but obviously we got what we got. The Rams are uninspiring. It's just a blackout uniform with, their 2 primaries on the sleeves. Like, okay, whatever. But I think everyone else actually did like a fairly decent job. Seattle is super interesting because the helmet is dark navy. But then when the light hits it, it turns green. I think that's really neat, and that's going to look really good in night games. I thought the Patriots, Winter Storm was solid. Bills, the all whites, kind of, similar to the Vikings a little bit, like kind of with like the shaded shoulder sleeves. Like I thought that was really cool. The Jets I thought was solid. And a lot of these, like a lot of people make opinions on jerseys right away. Like I think we have to see how they look on the grass and against the turf first before like making final judgments. But I think the early returns on some of these is hit and miss, but I think a lot of them will be better than what we originally anticipated. And the 49ers, like, I know like not every team needs a blackout, but this one is so much better than what they did in the color rush, like incorporating the gold, incorporating like the old script, not script, like the old timey number font, I think was really cool. Adding more gold into it was neat. Like 49ers have a really sick all black, because I know some people don't like it. I don't mind it. And if you're going to do it, it better look as cool as that one, because that one's sick. But, early returns, I think they're good. Could have been better, but I think some of them knocked it out of the park, like the Cardinals, 49ers, Seahawks, Patriots. Those five really, Bills, Cardinals, Seahawks, Patriots, and 49ers are all really solid.
Yeah. I agree on the 49ers one. I love how they're fully leaning into like the Western town vibe. Like the two ways to go with any sort of these jerseys is you have to go with something that's iconic with your city, or you just have to go something that's like so not deep, but like so specific to like the lore of your franchise. And obviously the 49ers Gold Rush 1849, like I love that. On the Dolphins, I know none of us are really super hot on the Dolphins. And my question to you guys is, do you feel like it's hard for Miami teams to have a really good city edition jersey in any sport after the Miami Heat just like completely killed their first ever city edition jersey? Like I feel like the general consensus on the Miami Vice city edition jersey, which they have since gone and replaced, I believe, like that was like the pinnacle of city edition jerseys. I mean, would you guys agree?
Yeah, for sure. I will say though, the Marlins' first City Connect jersey, the red with some white stripes in there, that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely better than whatever the hell they have with their Heat culture thing now. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be really hard for any Miami teams to top those early Heat City Edition jerseys.
Yeah, have you guys seen
Absolutely.
the FIU has those alternate jerseys, the Vice City alternates where they use those Miami colors? Those are beautiful.
They're sick.
Maybe we could pull that up and show Sam. But
those are dope. I just looked at that.
Yeah, they set the bar too high. They came out too strong. It's like you can't start with the sickest jersey you can conceive, and then where do you go from there?
When I have them up, I'll pull them up in a second.
Here, I can share my screen. I have a good side profile of one. Share screen. I want to go entire, and I want to share this one. And we can zoom in, unless it doesn't want to zoom in. That's nice. Let me click on this. Yeah, like this. With the palm trees on the sleeve.
Oh, that's dope.
And I know they have all white ones too, but those are like, come on.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
That's beautiful. And it looks like they're doing it for their other sports as well. Like they're carrying that over to baseball and stuff too.
They're leaning into we're from Miami. Like we're the actual Miami school thing.
Yeah.
They're leaning hard into that. So I mean shit, Pitbull freaking owns the stadium. It's Pitbull Stadium. Dale.
All right. Well, we'll see how those uniforms end up looking on the field. But, if that's all we got today, I think that'll wrap it up for this Addendum pod. Again, if you want to check out a full preview for your team, head to the House Enterprise blog. We've got them broken out by division and then by the individual team segments that you can click on. Obviously, we've got some great NFL coverage coming up throughout this week and throughout the season. I know Ohm's got his 2025 Tennessee Titans preview ready to drop sometime this week. And then you can see us back here later this week for the Football House as we cover week 2 of the college football season. So for Jordan Laube, Clubfoot Jim, Ohm Brown, I'm Sam Basel. This has been the Basel Pod. Make sure you follow us on the socials that you see below. And until next time, we'll see you guys later.